Hello everyone, my name is CrossFlux and welcome to my very first Let's Play of Teslagrad, an indie game that hasn't had too much attention as far as I can tell. So we're gonna give it a shot, give it some attention, and see what we can find. So this is a pretty quiet game in all respects, so I'll try and keep my voiceovers to a minimum. And most of the storytelling, as a result, is depicted in facial expressions and musical cues. So, once again, I'll have to try and keep my mouth shut so that you guys can experience the story the way that it's meant to. Alright, and here we are introduced to the main character, this young boy. It seems that we're running for our lives because those people in red seem to be after us for whatever reason. So, what I really like about this intro level is it gives you plenty of time to get used to the controls. So you get used to your character's running speed, jump height, all sorts of stuff like that. So that later on in the game, when they throw you some fairly challenging puzzles and platforming segments, it would be entirely your fault if you screwed it up. So that's one good thing about this game that I can say right off the bat. Another thing is it's a Metroidvania style game with a bit more focus on puzzle solving and stuff like that. But we'll get a little bit more into that later when it pops up. Another thing I can comment about this game is all the attention to detail in the background and even in the foreground and stuff like that. We can see the whole backdrop of this city and a giant tower in the background as well. And if you pay attention, you can even see a bunch of posters that appear to be dogmatic or propaganda-like, where it depicts the people in red as being the good guys and these evil blue hooded people. But from my perspective, it looks like these guys in red are the bad guys. But we'll learn a bit more about this story later on. I should probably be quiet and focus more on the platforming because I'm about to get caught. But just a little bit of finagling there and we're able to avoid the first major enemy of the game. So you guys will have to forgive me a little bit if I'm a bit sloppy, as this is my first Let's Play, and I figured Teslagrad's one of my favorite games that I've played, at least in recent history. So I figured, why not start with the game that I really enjoy? So, hopefully you guys can pick up on how awesome this game is based on how I react to it, at least. But here's one of the major characters of the game chasing us, this bearded man. If you recall, he was the one leading the charge of that army of red men who stormed our house at the very start in that opening cutscene. And it appears as if I ran just a little too far ahead. If he's a little bit closer to you when you get to this drawbridge, he'll stand at the edge kind of shaking his fist at you. But now it seems we have entered this giant tower that we saw in the background previously. So we've ran all the way across the city, and oh dear, up there in the ramparts you can see that hooded man found his own way into this tunnel, or tower I should say. But more than being alone, it seems we've stumbled across quite a grim scenario. There's a dead blue hooded person there. Definitely not pleasant. But for now, we've got to keep going. Here is where the game will truly begin. First, if you can call it a puzzle. Once again, it's kind of more or less introducing you to the mechanics. So, being as how the game is titled Teslagrad, if you guys know anything about Nikola Tesla in real life, he was a famous scientist known for his work in electricity and stuff like that. As a result, many of the puzzles in this game are going to be magnetic based, where you have to focus on like and different charges. And it seems that Red Man is still on our trail. He's just behind these glass, behind the stained glass I should say. And it seems we have entered a dead end. We're kind of stuck. So we're going to have to find a new solution, a new way around here. Luckily, we have these little fireflies that will kind of guide us. If you're ever lost, those little guys will tend to help you out and point you in the right direction. And gee, it sure would be helpful if we gained some sort of item. And you ask and shall receive. Alright, we have received the magnet glove. This allows us to charge neutral objects with either a positive or a negative magnetic charge. As a result, we can now hopefully not screw up this puzzle, but I kind of did. So we'll come back and try and get a tiny little bit of secret. There we go. First try. Beautiful. Alright, now here we've obtained the very first collectible of the game. I've heard some people refer to them as batteries and other people refer to them as scrolls. Personally, I liken them more to scrolls, as they tend to depict lore and history of these people in the blue hoods. So that's one of the biggest things that I love about this game, more than just about anything else. It's similarity to Metroid Prime, the trilogy, in that regard, where there is a story to this game and it's fairly in-depth with the lore and all that stuff, but you kind of got to be on the lookout for it. So for example, if you don't really care about story, you just care about a puzzle platforming experience, you don't have to really pay attention to any story, you don't have to go out of your way to avoid story if that's what you're hoping to do, but it's there if you want it. And so I believe in that regard it appeals to both types of people. Oh no, we've got to be careful. That guy's still around. Now here we have a little power plant. Those will inflict us with a particular charge, and these little magnetic tractor beams will propel us in a certain direction. And I just died because I ran into an electric gate. So once again, dead end. Only place we can go is down. So now earlier these orb walkers were helping us because they inflicted us with a particular charge. But here we'll find that they're actually a bit of a nuisance because this blue positive polarity tractor beam here will continue to force us into a different direction, specifically into these electric gates. So as long as we avoid them, we'll be just fine. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those little centipede creatures are called iron louse. And they are also helpful because they will allow us to put magnetic charges where we otherwise wouldn't be able to. And they can help us reach different places like that. So, riding a little elevator. Most of these beginning puzzles are really tame. They're kind of just introducing you to the idea of, hey, the puzzles in this game are going to be about positive and negative charges. Hope you get used to it. That sort of thing. But I feel it's really crucial because this sort of stuff is your bread and butter, and if you don't get used to it now, you're going to be in for a long road later on in the game. And it seems I might be stuck. Okay, good. Oh, my pinky toe! Who knew a pinky toe was so vital to one's health that you would disintegrate upon touching a tiny gate of electricity? But, as we've noticed, death timers and whatever are pretty short in this game too, so it's similar to Super Meat Boy in that regard, which makes it not very frustrating if you kind of fail at first with certain puzzles and stuff. It actually encourages you to practice trial and error sort of thing to solve a puzzle if you're having trouble. Alright, and if you time your jump just right there on that ride, we will be introduced to the second collectible of the game. I'll get into the collectibles a little bit more in depth later once we have a few more than just two. So yeah, we'll look into that later. But for now, we're greeted with an ominous tunnel. And more than that, the very first boss of the game, the Iron Guardian Furnace. Now, the primary tactic of this boss is it will be shooting out a positive tractor beam as such, and we have to feed its gullet with these boxes, and to do that, we inflict them with a positive charge so that they get pulled up into its mouth. And each cycle takes 3 boxes, and after each cycle, it counts as quote-unquote a hit. And I completely forgot about the pattern because I was too busy focusing on my commentating. So yeah, I'm a bit rusty at this sort of thing. But as I was mentioning before, after each cycle he'll start shooting out kind of a flame breath. The only place that you're safe from that breath is the very left or the very right side of the screen. But obviously you got to be careful, because if you go too far to the left you'll hit this electric gate, and if you go too far to the right you'll get burned alive in that furnace. Hurry up. Okay, good. Now, after each cycle of the flame breath, he'll shake the screen and cause the conveyor belt to move faster, making it harder to stay in an area of safety. But in standard platforming boss fashion, 3 whole cycles is all that it's going to take to put this guy down for good. One tip I recommend doing is staying on the conveyor belt as little as possible, especially during that final round of play, because that conveyor belt's going to be moving so fast and you're going to be pelted with so many boxes that it's going to be very easy to get trapped and you'll be out of luck then. So I recommend jumping and staying in the air as much as possible. So as long as I follow my own advice, I should be fine here. Alright, 1 box on the final round. Do I see 2? Do I see 2? I do. Alright, 1 more box. Now you gotta be careful, he'll shoot that flame breath 1 more time if I'm not mistaken. Alright, come on. There we go. There we go. And... okay, I was mistaken. He does not shoot fire breath on that final time, because he's dead. I guess that makes sense. But with that furnace boss out of the way, I say we call it quits, and we'll pick up where we left off. Once again, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching this Let's Play, and hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys in the next part.